guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you a book review of The Girl in the Tower by Katherine Arden. So before I start, I just wanted to say I received a copy of this book in exchange for an honest review. It doesn't influence my opinion whatsoever. I also want to say thank you so much to eBay for sending me this. So this review will not contain spoilers for The Girl in the Tower. However, there are a couple of spoilers for The Bear and the Nightingale, so I would highly suggest not watching this video if you haven't read The Bear and the Nightingale, and if you haven't, pick it up now, seriously, it's an amazing book. So, if you've seen my Best Books of 2017 video, you may know that The Bear and the Nightingale was one of my favorites. It was easily one of my favorite books of last year, even though I read it very early on. The fact that it stuck with me through the entire year, I think says a lot about how much I loved that book. So The Girl in the Tower is the sequel to that book. It is the second book in the Winter Night trilogy, and the third one, I believe, is coming out next year. In The Bear and the Nightingale, we were introduced to Vasia, and she is a girl who lives in medieval Russia, in the kind of very, very rural North Russia. So in that book, we learn about sort of the society that she's raised in, which really favors women who are very sort of quiet and complacent and make good wives, and she is very much not that. She's a very wild girl, and she has a lot of conflict in her family. Her father and her sisters and everyone are trying to marry her off, and it's like the last thing that she wants. In that book, we also have sort of the folklore of Russia really comes to life. So we have a lot of these incredible creatures that Vasia can see, but almost no one else can see. And to link into that a little bit, we have the spread of Christianity. A priest comes to her town, his name is Father Constantine, and he is preaching Christianity to the people of her town, and they stop believing the spirits and the folklore that used to dominate their lives, and these creatures are beginning to fade away. So one of the things that I loved so much about The Bear and the Nightingale that I was really hoping to continue in The Girl in the Tower were these incredible villains, like Father Constantine and like Vasia's stepmother, who really believe that they are right, and within the context of their society, they are right, and Vasia is really struggling against the norm. The Girl in the Tower picks up where The Bear and the Nightingale leaves off. Vasia decides that she is going to go out into the world with Solovey, who is her horse, who is a wonderful character of his own, and she is going to see everything that there is to see, despite our sexy frost demon friend, it's me projecting, wanting her to stay put. The world is very dangerous for a girl, particularly a young girl, but she disguises herself as a boy and she goes off on her adventures. I love The Bear and the Nightingale so much, and I was actually initially a little bit wary of the fact that it was going to be a trilogy, even though it had already been planned. It was just me not paying attention. So when I got The Girl in the Tower in my hands and I began to read it, I was so pleasantly surprised. A lot of the things that I loved about the first book are very much here. However, it expands on Vasia's world. So one of the big differences is in the first book, most of it takes place in rural northern Russia. In this book, most of it takes place, well, some of it is in the countryside, most of it takes place in Moscow, in medieval Moscow. Because of that, you get a lot more politics in this book, whereas the first one is more focused on sort of the fairy tale and folklore and culture. You still get that in this book. However, there is a bigger emphasis placed on what the politics of the time was like and what relations between Russia and other countries were like. One of the things that you really continue on with from the first book into the second book is the treatment of women at this particular period in time. So we all know that Vasia is not the typical woman of this time, and she really struggles to find her place in society because she would probably make a much better son than she would daughter for this particular period in time. She's also really dealing with the death of her father and the guilt that surrounds that. So it's a very kind of different Vasia that we get in this book. She is still the stubborn, wonderful character that we grew to know and love in the first one. However, I feel like she's really grown and her character arc is really continuing. She's not the same person as she was in The Bear and the Nightingale. I really love the setting for this book. I loved a lot of the adventures that she gets up to, particularly when she is disguised as a boy. You really get to see the difference between how her peers treat her as a boy than they would if they knew that she was a girl, particularly a girl of nobility. So the thing is that I loved the ending of The Bear and the Nightingale. I thought it was a perfect standalone ending. and I was worried that we wouldn't get Morozko again. However, he pops up a lot in this book, and you really get to see who he is and sort of the type of creature that he is. And I really, really loved exploring his character and exploring the relationship that's growing between the two of them. Overall, this is a very different book from The Bear and the Nightingale. However, a lot of those same themes that we know and love from that first book are very much present in here. It really expands the world, and I really appreciated that. I feel like you still get enough of the folktale and those creatures that Vazia can see but no one else can. You really get to know this particular time period and this particular setting, and I think that that's one of the big strengths of this book. It still feels very much like an adult dark fairy tale. However, there's a little bit of historical fiction thrown in there as well, and it's a really fascinating read, and you will go through it so quickly. Just like The Bear and the Nightingale, this is a very atmospheric read, so I would highly suggest reading it in winter, snow optional. Overall, I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really loved it. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for the next one. So if you have read The Bear and the Nightingale, or if you have gotten to The Girl in the Tower at this point, definitely let me know. I would love to hear what you think. So if you are interested in seeing a little bit more about The Girl in the Tower and from Katherine Arden, then I did a Q&A with her on my blog, so if you're interested, I will leave a link to that below. You can see some of her answers to some of the questions that I asked, things that I was curious about. If you like this video and you want to see more, then definitely subscribe, and I will see you next time.